What's the biggest lie being told about peptides today?
I think the biggest lie with peptides is that it's magic, that you
Mm.
take it and you'll see some of these before and afters, and they think that you don't have to do work in order to transform, in order to feel better.
Tina helped guide me through those side effects. It was like having somebody to be my doctor through a process like that, which I'd never experienced. Like every doctor I ever went to was only there when I broke. This was the first doctor that helped me not just be satisfied with okay, and got me to a place where I'm a different human being today.
All right, all things Noho Labs and Scribble.
Let's
because
go.
what we want to dive into is the future state, what Silicon Valley is getting right and wrong about peptides. You are the leaders in this space. We're thrilled to do this, and so thanks for taking the time. I'm Elizabeth Wheel, founding partner at Scribble Ventures. We're a pre-seed and seed fund focused on all things tech, AI heavy, and all past operators and investors. But today we are here to talk about peptides. So Silicon Valley was early in the peptide craze. You were even earlier, and there now is really real data and science behind it. And I must say, I was a skeptic. But we're going to discuss the quiet part out loud now. What the biohacker influencers got right about peptides and what they're getting wrong. And what everyone should actually know about peptides, how they might change your health and our health system. And then I did a little digging and some fun facts.
Ooh.
In April, Google searches for the word peptide overtook pickleball.
No.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
And Joe Rogan takes peptides. So does Jennifer Aniston. Who knew? I could believe that. Biohack was a finalist for the Oxford Word of the Year last year in 2025. Rage Bait won, but I feel like Biohack has good odds this year. Today we are joined by Noho Labs co-founders, Dr. Tina Wu and Matt Mazzeo, long executives, builders in their own right, and even a doctor to boot. And Noho Labs is a concierge wellness service guided by world-class clinicians and unmatched expertise in the peptide space. Now you can correct me if I got that wrong. So, opening question, Tina and Matt. I'm going to start with a question that I guess is on everyone's mind, and then we'll talk more about why you started Noho. What's the biggest lie being told about peptides today?
I can answer from my perspective. I think the biggest lie with peptides is that it's magic. That you take it and you'll see some of these before and afters, and they think that you don't have to do work in order to transform, in order to feel better. We view this as an instrument in an orchestra. You cannot create something magical unless you have all of those instruments together. And when they play in concert and when they play correctly, then it can be magical. But there is no cheat code to this. People do still have to do the hard work.
And would you have an opinion on how much damage it's causing?
I think
You mean how much
Sorry.
damage the lie is causing, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that damage does speak to the desperation that many people have, is that they are desperate to feel better. They're desperate to look better. We are in a system where we say this all the time in the company that you go to your primary care doctor and they say, you're fine. And sometimes you don't want to just be fine. You don't feel fine. And see, people are desperate to find a solution. And so the damage is going out there to the gray market in desperation without clinical guidance because they can't find the right clinical guidance. And so I think there certainly has been damage. And you can see that when people get themselves into trouble and they have nowhere to turn to.
So let's go into the little bit of the science first, but I really do want to get to your story because it's the personal stories that struck me the most and why we became instant investors. But let's go to Peptides 101. How and why do they work? And what are they? And why should we care?
Yeah, so just, Peptides 101. So how and why do peptides work? They are, without getting too technical, they're small chains of amino acids. They're basically your building blocks that your body already uses to signal. So they're not really a foreign chemistry, they're messengers. And so the peptide tells a specific cell to do a specific thing, like repair the tissue, release that hormone, calm this inflammation. That's a lot of drugs that work like a sledgehammer. So there's a lot of drugs out there. But peptides are really closer to the text message, to one system. So that's why the precision in science is really interesting, and why the dosing and oversight also matters so much.
Makes sense. And what does the tech set get so right about peptides? Why is this group of people early on the chain, do you think? And then what side effects are happening because of it?
Yeah.
Matt, do you want to answer? I can take this. You can answer. It's up to you.
I feel like I lived the experience on the tech side. So like, I think the tech set is like always being one of those like communities that like is early to a category. Like they kind of don't trust the maps, and so they just like run the terrain themselves. And so like the tech set is almost always on the further edge of like willingness to experiment, willingness to do their own research, willingness to like go to the source material and see where the world is. And then by definition, I think we're always like on frontiers in our jobs. And then also like that sometimes expands for some people into like their own biology. And so I think the tech set gets that like the maps don't always match the terrain, and when those two diverge, you trust the terrain. And so it's a willingness to go out there and like explore. And I think that leads to some of like the challenges of this market is like you try to explore without having the expertise. And it's like, the two sides of this coin is, I think Tina's side, spoke to one side, which is like, it's not magic, but it's also not like snake oil. And it's like understanding and disambiguating like where the science is and being realistic about the risks, and having like real experts in health guide you is kind of where I came out on it myself. And so that's part of what we're building at Noho, is like having the guide to like help take you through the terrain before the maps are written.
And I'll just add, I'll add one thing, is that the tech community often treats biology like a system that's worth measuring. They took the peptide seriously way before mainstream medicine would, and the instinct to measure, iterate, and not wait for permission is right in some ways. And they've sort of led that charge, and they've really paved the way for the rest of the community to follow.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So let's not waste any time. I want to actually hear and get into your stories, Matt. It was what originally struck me as, wow. I remember you describing your personal journey, your children, your health, and I had no idea. Give us a little bit of background first, where you were in the past years of life, and then what brought you to this.
Yeah, all right, so I'll take you a little bit back. I was a kid who always struggled with my health. I come from a long line of Mazzeos who don't make it that long. My grandfather never met the man, died of a heart attack in his 50s. My dad had his first heart attack in his 40s. I flash forward, you and I met originally when I was like, investing out of lowercase and investing out of Kotu. And by the time I finished my ride at Kotu, I was 40 years old. I just had my first child, Josephine, who's now 4. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, I look a lot like my dad. I was 260 pounds. I feel like I hadn't stood up from a Zoom meeting in like a decade, basically. And my body looked like it. And so when I left Kotu, I like made it a mission to like get back on track. I went and got tested for like everything I possibly could. Finally, I was like, it's time to not fall prey to the Mazzeo line. And so I went and, checked my hormones first. My testosterone was in the gutter. It was like 150, which I didn't realize what that meant at the time, but it realized like now that it was like effectively like prepubescent boy levels. And then I started getting that fixed, and I was like, okay, I got a little bit better. I got from 260 to 240 about a year ago. And I went to YC actually. I was finally like getting back into investing. I'd taken a little time out, and when I was at YC, I bumped into a buddy of mine, and the buddy was, we were kind of always the heavier guys together. He was like in his 50s. He looked like a superhero. He looked like he had like reversed aged a decade. He looked cut from granite. And I'm like, what happened to you? How did you pull this off? Like, why did you not take me on this ride? And he goes, oh, Maz, I'm on every peptide. And I'm like, okay, buddy, you sound like a TikTok video. Are you injecting like Chinese steroids in your body? He's like, no, you got to figure this out. It's real. And it sent me down this rabbit hole. He's like, I got the best doctor. I meet his doctor. His doctor was like a chiropractor slinging needles out of some strip mall in Texas. I was like, if this is the best doctor in this space, I'm terrified. But like, obviously the results were great. Again, the terrain didn't match the map. So I was like, I got to learn. I went way deep. I went like, you know, when you and I go like deep on an investment and we're like, we're just going to learn everything about this space.
Yep.
That's what happened. I met like every doctor, every researcher, all the academics I could find, my gym bros. I'm like writing down their stacks. I'm talking to friends in the military. I'm like, special forces guys, like, are you taking these? And they're like, yes. I'm like, what are you taking? I'm Claude coding like 1911 clinical studies. My wife is like, why is my sourdough next to like a chemistry lab in our kitchen? And by the end of it, I became convinced that the science was real, that what started with insulin and then became GLP-1s was the beginning of a wave that was going to hit tech and hit health broadly. And I was like, it felt like we were at the very beginning of this like moment where people realized that they could like control their own biology with much more specificity, but that the industry was disgusting. It was like no supply chain control, no trusted vendors, no trusted brands. You had to like literally get like a chemistry PhD to like do these things at home. And then the doctors were terrible. Like the doctors were like, you know, not real docs. And they, you know, didn't have any research. And, you know, it was that or a gym bro was your like go-to source for, or, you know, GPT was your like entirety of like, how do I dose these things? And then I met Tina through the team at ABC. And when I saw the team at ABC, they were like, what are you obsessed with? I was like, all things.
Which team at ABC? What?
So I'm super close to Joe. We've been buddies for like 20 years. And he's like, he and Alex Kolachek over there were like, hey, you got to meet. You're like, I told him I was obsessed with peptides. Like, our partner Zach is obsessed with peptides, and he's incubating a company in this space where it's going to be the next thing we build. And we've got the best doctor. And I'm like, okay, I've heard that before. And then I meet Tina, and I'm like, oh my God, you're the greatest doctor I've ever seen. Tina doesn't brag about herself enough, so I will do it for her. She was Harvard Business School, UCLA Medicine, and then director of quality at NYU for over a decade. She's like not only the best doctor that I'd met, but also like the doctor that knew the most about peptides that I had met. And like I'd spoken to like dozens of docs at this point, and they were all like a letdown. And then I talked to Tina. I was like, oh, you actually understand the science. You understand what like clinical research is. You're not trying to like sell me a compound. I was like, great, sign me up. I will be patient zero at Noho Labs. I'll be your like, put me on a protocol here. I knew enough to be like, this is kind of what I want to accomplish. Here's my goals. Like really it was just like, fix me. She's like, great. This is what we'll test. Here's how the compounds work. Here's where the science is. Here's what the risks are. Like, here's how like the next 12 weeks will look. Here's what to expect. And I went on this journey, and I went from like 240 pounds and 30% body fat. We titrated in, and then I ran a 12-week protocol. And by the end of it, I'm like sub 200 pounds, sub 12% body fat. And my biomarkers go from like, Matt needs to be on a statin to like every biomarker is optimal. We put it into Claude Code the other day, and Claude Code goes, every biomarker is optimal. There's nothing to fix. And by the way, you're more metabolically efficient than elite Olympic endurance athletes. And by the way, you and I both know I treated my body like a dumpster fire for like 40 years. And so, you know, I'm watching you and Kevin sprint, and I'm the opposite.
So there's one thing though about that story, and it was all the drugs, but were you also becoming a gym rat and like eating kale smoothies and? Oh
yeah. Let's be very clear. Like these are tools. To Tina's point earlier, like these are levers on good behavior. But I've tried my whole life to do better. Like I started doing like 2-day-a-week workouts. I'm like, oh, I can actually do it. And then I'm sleeping better. Like my recovery is faster. Like all these things. Like wait, the dad shoulder thing is like, I'm fine. And then like. By the end of like my 12th week, I'm like, I could do 5 days a week workouts. I'm like, my diet, by the way, which I've always struggled with. I've like been a chronic overeater. You put a carb in front of me, I'm slaughtering that carb. Like goes from like, I can't maintain to like, this is actually like really easy for diet control. And so I'm hitting my protein goals, which are like, you know, I'm like doing crazy amounts of protein. It's not a struggle. I'm working out like more consistently. My sleep is better. My energy is better. I'm like, these things were things that like had I had perfect adherence, I'm sure I could have done this. It would probably have taken me longer, but maybe I could have done it. But I've tried my whole life to do this. It's not the first time I've tried to like get in shape, like fall off the wagon, you get an injury, you sleep shitty, all those things. And it just made all of those things easier. And it accelerated what I feel like was, you know, a process for me. So these were tools. They're not like, to Tina's point, it's not like I took Space Jam juice and I got like jacked overnight. Like they helped me in all these ways to be, you know, to get my goals done.
And when you started on this journey, what do you think you believed that turned out to be completely wrong?
I was more skeptical than almost anybody here. Like I was like, this is just, I hadn't tried a GLP-1 to this point. Like I was like, it felt like cheating. That I think that was it. It felt like, oh, this doesn't require any hard work. Like, no, it requires like discipline and good sleep and good habits and like all of those things. Like I got that piece. Like I think I was like, either this is total BS. Like this is all gonna like none of these things work. If they worked, like how did I not know about them earlier? And like, you know, I think I was just convinced that that was going to be the case. It was either that or it was cheap. It was like, and what it turns out, it was like right in the middle. It was like the reason, there's a ton of reasons why we don't know about like this. That it's like now being fixed, thank God. And then they are really effective tools, but they can't just be like internet dosed. You have to like follow, like, and there's no one size fits all to any of this. It's, you know, these things require titration and changes, and like having Tina like guide me through that process was like night and day. Like I'm like, again, like, I didn't just like read a list on the internet and be like, this is the S tier and do the S tier. It was like, I had specific goals that I wanted to accomplish. And it was like titrating in. I had, you know, I had side effects to some of these things. I was like, oh, Tina helped guide me through those side effects. It was like having somebody to be my doctor through a process like that, which I'd never experienced. Like every doctor I ever went to was only there when I broke. This was the first doctor like that helped me not just be like satisfied with okay, and got me to a place where like I'm a different human being today. Like my friends see me before and after, and I'm like, I look different. My blood work is different. I'm like to myself, I'm like unrecognizable. Like in my head, I'm still, you know, the broken 40-year-old from a few years ago.
Well, you clearly are the poster child for this one. But let's dig in a little bit, like what you mentioned. You did have some side effects. Talk us through what those are specifically, and
I had a bad experience with semaglutide. Like when I first got on semaglutide, I experienced like you know, like a chronic hiccup. I'm like in a very weird cohort of people. Like it wasn't even like something that was diagnosed. I got like bad reflux, bad side effect, and then we ended up titrating into tirzepatide, and it was like night and day difference, much better experience. Like for me, that was incredible, and it was like it was super helpful for me in like shifting my appetite, my diet habits, and I had like much better effect from that. And so, but
and those are separate GLPs.
Yeah, I'll let Tina's literally the expert in this category. So
yeah, so for two separate GLP-1s that they are FDA approved. So Ozempic, Wegovy, those are FDA approved. Zepbound and Mounjaro are FDA approved. So, and these, every peptide, every medication comes with some risk. So this is one of the things that as a physician, as an emergency medicine physician, I understand these risks. And certainly the ones that we see, I mean, there's every single peptide carries some risk, right? We just have to know what they are. Tylenol carries risk, Motrin carries risk, and vitamins carry risk. And so what we're seeing is, while they can be very, very powerful, some of the growth hormone secretagogues carry risk, CJC, tesamorelin, ipamorelin, sermorelin. So these things need to be monitored. And if you're not pairing this with blood work, with oversight, then you could fall off the rails with some of your even blood work. And by the time you feel bad, it might be too late. So we do a lot of very close monitoring for patients.
That's it. And so in addition to reflux, what are some other types of things that peptides have been shown to cause, big or little?
You're talking about side effects?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the more common ones I would say is copper. So many people are using topical copper, certainly for, you know, collagen production, hair, skin, nails. They're using it topically. They're using it on their hair. But for the injectable ones, what we're seeing is that it can cause burning. Right, so that is, and it's copper's in a lot of the different stacks. You'll hear different stacks out there: copper alone, glow, clo. Sometimes people don't even know what's in these stacks. They'll be like, "Oh, I want to glow," and therefore they're going to use this and not know what's in it. And so we see that very commonly in some of the different peptide stacks. And then the other ones that we do see quite commonly are injection site reactions. So if you're using any of the GLP-1s, then we are very aware of those. There's nausea, like you mentioned, reflux. And so we closely monitor many of the side effects for any and all of the peptides that patients want to come to us and discuss.
Yeah. You know what's crazy, Elizabeth? I've bought like basically $50,000 of peptides from like different vendors on the internet as I was doing my research. Do you know how many of them called me to follow up on a side effect?
Ooh.
Zero. The
Really?
answer is zero. $50,000 spent. Zero people even asked. Like none of them even followed up. Not a single. And this is telehealth companies. These are like people out there. They don't. If you ask them like, what are the side effects on these? You know what the response you get back? We don't have any reported side effects. Do you know why that's the case? Because they don't know and they don't care.
Yeah.
This is like the state of the art in the industry for most of these people. And that includes like venture-backed companies out there that you're like, oh, these are like, you would think legitimate businesses. Like zero check-ins on this.
I believe
That's
that.
the state.
Wow. So 2 questions before we turn the tables a little bit about building the business and you actually telling us about the Noho platform. But what's the one peptide almost nobody knows about that deserves more attention?
Now you want to start or you want me to start?
You go for it.
So I would say that like some people may know about them, but I would say they're underrated. So I would say one of the most underrated peptides are the growth hormone secretagogues. So you have a lot of Americans, especially women who are on the GLP-1s, and they think that it's MAT that are on the growth hormone secretagogues, but no, it's actually like a lot of women should be taking these as well, because if you're losing weight and you're losing a lot of weight, then you want to maintain that muscle mass. And so it doesn't mean that if Matt and I take the same dose of of Sermorelin that we're going to grow the same amount of muscle. We are not. And so, but we could be on the same dose and we can still maintain a certain amount of muscle that we want. So I think that is one of the most underrated peptides is the growth hormone secretagogues for women.
Yeah. I would throw, and again, I'm further on the risk spectrum, so I've tried many. I would say the one that is now PCAC recommended from this last batch, which I think is going to get a lot of attention, is the ones that people talk about, BPC 157 and TB 500 are really interesting. But I also think there's one called Epitalon that is really compelling for sleep use cases. For most of my life, I don't know about you, I've struggled with sleep. It's like, I'm a dad. When I did this transformation, I was sleep training my little baby, my 6-month-old, and I'm not like a pro at this. I'm like trying to figure this out as I go, and life is real, and you're in the middle of the night, you're changing diapers, and you're like trying to stay alive and like keep them alive. And the sleep peptide was like remarkable for me, and it had a bunch of impact. It was like a very short run of the peptide, and my sleep got better. My circadian rhythm was more structured. My dreams were richer and more engaging. It was like a whole bunch of things where, just anecdotally, like it felt like I was having like IMAX level dreaming for the first time in my adult life, which maybe I'd just forgotten how to have these dreams. It was a very unique experience, and it was like, again, this is a compound that will soon be compoundable in 503A compounding pharmacies, hopefully. And I think that is like a really interesting one that people are sleeping on.
And I'll just add in, similar to melatonin, some people can microdose, they're doing like 0.25, 0.5 milligrams, and then other people are doing 20 milligrams. So many times there's like 10x differences in what one person needs versus what the other person will work for them. So I would just caution people to do this off of some Reddit thread or some recommendation. Every single person is very, very different. And especially sleep. People are very, very sensitive to sleep. So it is very, very wide therapeutic windows for many of the peptides.
Yes, I can imagine. Man, if we thought OpenAI was bad at naming products, there's got to be an overhaul on peptide naming. These are confusing. Well, now, last question before switching modes to building the company. What's the peptide everyone's obsessed with that you would never personally take?
Oh, this one's easy for me. Can I go first on this one, Tina?
Yeah.
There's a peptide called melanotan that is like big in certain circles. I won't do that one. I'm Italian. This one actually does make you tanner, as it is the opposite of no tan. It makes you very, very dark. It's like I've seen people who have taken it and they look like they came back from like a Hawaiian vacation. I need no help on the tanning side, and so I will be avoiding that one. But that would be the one that is like in current like circles of like the peptide users.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I would caution on kisserpeptin. It's a master switch and not a dial. So kisserpeptin, it sits really on top of the reproductive axis. It's a signal that tells your brain to release GnRH, that drives many other hormones, drives testosterone, drives estrogen. So you're not just nudging one hormone, you're like poking a thermostat for the entire reproductive system. And in a healthy person whose axis is already works, there's really no upside in that. It has a fun name, which is kisserpeptin. But using it continuously can do the opposite of what people want. So the axis stops responding to pulses. It drives desensitization. There is some human data, and it's acute and very narrow. So they looked at one single dose for fertility and early work on sexual desire. But this is a big extrapolation to be using this regularly. So that is one that I don't recommend, that I would avoid.
Thank you. Okay, a little bit about the company, Noho Labs. We heard about your personal story on why you jumped in, how you guys met, and now tell us a little bit about the platform. What's harder than you think about building this business? Some of the secrets that you've put in versus some of the other venture-backed companies out there?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to build is the most trusted brand in this category. And I think doing that the right way requires, a bunch of different components. It's, the market has this crazy big trust gap. There's people out there who are trying to come into this. They see what the news headlines are saying around a gold rush, and they're, jumping in, trying to turn this into a category where they can just sell and grift and make a business around selling as many peptides as possible. And so you're seeing influencers out there who are using affiliate codes to drive this is the best peptide and the top tiered peptides, and that whole category of what we're talking about feels like it feels disgusting, and two, it is an incredibly high risk endeavor. These are tools and medications, and they have meaningful biological impact. The science is still early, and I think a lot of people are out there excited about the potential of it, but in a world where there's a lot of noise and broken supply chains, in the vacuum of trust, these different platforms fill the gap. And I feel like these tools are so important, so powerful for driving health outcomes. They've been instrumental in my transformation and my health outcomes. I feel like that if we do not build a trusted brand, then it will be driven, and the whole category will be owned by people who have garbage intent. And what I care about is building a company that is aligned with patient outcomes. And if we look forward in 20 years and we have built a great business around helping people achieve their goals, their outcomes, personalized to them based on where they are in their health journey, and do that through combining access to great, highly trusted compounds that can be verified, tested, and compounded the right way, with doctors guiding you, not some GPT shell, but real clinicians who are involved in the healthcare of patients and have been for a long time, and can drive their knowledge, their body of knowledge, and their bedside manner and the way that they treat patients, and have bring that level of knowledge with all the research and tooling that exists today, so they can get to where the science is and meet patients where they want to be, combined with the software to make sure that we're tracking outcomes the right way. I think that is the business that we are going to build. And if you look forward today, we have a world that is built around sick care. There's enormous industry built around intervening in your life when you are broken. If there is a billing code for your health, then you are treated. If there's not a billing code that exists for you, you are told that you are fine. And when people hear they are fine, what they trust is that is not an answer that they're satisfied with, and they will go outside of that world to find the answer. They will go to an influencer, they will go to a Reddit thread, and they will do things on themselves that are not safe. And that is the broken part of this business. If I told you who is the company today that you could get to take you from wherever you are in your health journey to healthier, it's hard to think of a business that is in that gap today. And when you think about that, the fact that that gap exists, that I don't even know which doctor I would call to take me from like where I am today to healthier if it's not broken. If I'm a C or a B, I'm not technically broken today, but I want to be the healthiest version of myself. The fact that there's no company that comes to mind when you think of like who can help me there that is led by real doctors is a crazy thing in my life. I can't, like, once you hear that out loud, you're like, I cannot believe that that gap exists. And the thing is, it doesn't exist for the richest people in this country. They have concierge docs that they spend they spend tens of thousands. If you're Brian Johnson, you can spend $2 million a year on yourself and have teams of doctors, great. And you can offer a concierge experience for $1 million, great. My family can't. My friends can't. Most Americans can't. And I want to build a company that is around great care for them so that they can achieve whatever their health, wherever they are on that journey, that's the business that we are going to build. And I feel like it's a generational opportunity. And frankly, like as a guy who's had the best jobs in the world, I've loved every job I've ever had. This is the first time I feel like we have a real mission, and it's we're going to do a lot of good for our patients along the way. And my hope is, we do a lot of good for the industry as well, and just establish what a trusted brand in this category can mean.
Yeah, and that leads me to a question of what your biggest obstacle is to becoming the world's leading concierge wellness platform. And you mentioned it a bit, but who do you need to unseat or win over?
Yeah, I'll start with part of this. Really doing it right when the whole category rewards fast and loose, like shipping the vial fine, and there's a lot of companies that do that. But building these clinical guardrails, the pharmacy relationships, the monitoring, compliance, having the best software in a shifting regulatory environment, that is genuinely hard. It's a moat, but it's genuinely hard. The shortcuts are always sitting right there in front of us, but we choose not to take those shortcuts because we're not here for 6 months or for a year or two. We want to build a real generational business.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. I think that's the true North Star of this business is like do it the right way and focus on patient outcomes. I think there's going to be a lot of companies that are like, we sell peptides, and I don't think that's actually what we are. I think we are in the world of like helping people achieve great health outcomes, and peptides are one of the tools, and it's a great tool and it's a great lever, and it's a great why now because people are taking more control over their health than ever. But we are going to drive great health outcomes, and this business will grow and compound on the back of like great health outcomes for our patients and meeting them where they are in that journey. And like in 20 years, we'll look back and that will be the compounding. And so the companies that are out there just slinging the shots, I think will look commoditized and look incomplete.
Not like a tech platform.
They will not look like the kind of businesses that you and I admire. They will look like the businesses that like got rich fast selling something and finding the hedge and finding the margin and growth hacking their way through Facebook ads. And like, that is not the business that I care to build. And I don't think that's the goal that any of us that are involved in this business set out for. Like, if we flash back and our patient population has gotten to the best health of their life and they get more years with their loved ones and they're there sitting or dancing at their grandkids' wedding and have memories along the way, the ones that I see on your Instagram page with you and Kevin, like, and being able to run and be healthy and active, and like, I don't have any of those memories with my dad. Like, I just don't. There was no ski trips, there's no runs, there was no triathlon, there was no like swim days, beach days. Like, we're going to build a company that gives people an opportunity to have as many of those as possible. And, I think the challenge is not taking the shortcuts along the way and making sure that our patient outcomes drive the growth of the business. And if we do it right, that's the opportunity.
And one of those potential shortcuts that I actually really admired about the way you were building the business gave me a lot of confidence. Tell us a little about your pharmacy relationships.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that are rappers in this space, right? Like, there's a lot of people. If you wanted to stand up a telehealth business today, Elizabeth, like, you would go and you'd partner with like a third-party prescription network, which really just feels like an inconvenience on top of Stripe. It's like somebody writing a script and somebody who's got like the licenses to do it. You wouldn't care about building like a clinical operation of the caliber that we have, where real doctors are taking care of patients. If you were trying to build a peptide telehealth business and just get to market and grow revenue fast and land grab, you would just wrap it around a pharmacy, any pharmacy. You don't care what the quality is. You wouldn't even inspect it. You would just say, like, can you serve this and what's the price? And you treat it like cogs and you'd go. That's what you would probably do if you were sprinting. And there's going to be a lot of people that go and do that. if you're trying to build a generational business, you know that every time you have something that touches the patient's life, whether that's the compound or the doctor or the software, that you control as much of that metal as possible. That you build a vertically integrated company that combines anything that can be an edge to providing great patient outcomes. You own it. And that includes the compounding. And so we have partnered with one of the best compounding pharmacies in the country, the leader of whom is now our chief pharmacy officer, was compounding pharmacist of the year. He is not just a compounding pharmacist. He is one of the highest regarded people in that industry. He's an expert. And I will tell you, it was there were shortcuts that we could have taken, but the way that we thought about it was we wanted to invest in the highest quality talent in every vertical. Great engineers, great doctors, and definitely great pharmacists.
And can I actually have you describe really quickly what the difference between a compounding pharmacy and going to CVS?
Yeah. So with a compounding pharmacy, compounding pharmacies exist because they're making unique compounds for the individual. So retail pharmacies, CVS, Walgreens, you can have any of the physicians send your prescriptions, and they make them in bulk and they can distribute them. Whereas compounding pharmacies is very individualized, and most of the time they're putting together different ingredients. So for example, if you have hair loss specifically, and you need a steroid in your formulation as well, then they can compound those together so that you can have one formulation. A lot of the skincare products as well. So if you don't want 5 separate creams, and then you want to compound those together, that's what compounding pharmacies do. Traditionally, in many hospitals, they are for pediatrics, to be honest. So kids can't take pills, especially when they're very, very young. And so a lot of the compounding pharmacies will make special formulations for special patients.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. Well, one question I've had on, we're still in early years of this company, but what has been the hardest thing over this first year?
I think there's a lot of things that we thought that were going to be hard, and they didn't end up being as hard. One of the things that we thought that was going to be very hard was educating physicians, to be honest, educating the masses. What we want to be able to do is to be the trusted voice. And what we're finding actually is, especially over the last year, is that now physicians are coming to us saying, please help us. We want to serve our patients. And so we're not viewing people as competitors necessarily. I'm doing grand rounds at many different academic institutions. We're talking to many physicians every single week so that we can better serve the community and better serve our patients. And so we thought that it was going to be like kicking and screaming for most of academics, which certainly there are a lot of people that are, but there is more of a willingness to come to the patients, which I've found very, very encouraging.
I think the thing that I've been around tech businesses for a long time. I think I've never been in a business that is this heavily regulated. I think learning that for me has been I'm fortunate that I'm surrounded by great doctors who have built great telehealth businesses before, and people who've worked in pharmacy and like great legal counsel who has been like world class at this. But like that learning curve, I think for anyone who does not come from this world, and again, there's going to be a lot of people who jump in this space. I wish them luck. And if you haven't gone through the real ringer of doing this, and you don't know how to address like a patient incident or how to think about licensing and compliance the right way, like you will see a bunch of the companies out there getting letters now, and the foot faults that'll drown you if you don't do these things right. And do it as a white knight, you will see those things happen. And I think that has been really important. And then the other piece of it, honestly, is like making sure that you get the people right has been like the biggest unlock for us. Like high integrity, high horsepower, high agency experts in these categories, and make it is always more expensive, and it is always worth the price to find people who are like world class. The doctors on our platform are some of the best doctors you will ever interact with. The pharmacists on our platform are not again, I didn't realize this. Going to a different pharmacy, going to some 503As out there, the difference is like walking into a Michelin star restaurant and walking into a food truck. Not all 503A pharmacies are the same. You find one that's like run by the best in the country. They're spectacular. The operation is like fluid. The documentation is pristine. The compliance and regulatory frameworks that they run through are immaculate. And then you go to the others and they run it like it's like a throwaway. They run it like they're shipping something off Alibaba. And you're like, what's your standard of care? They're like, who cares? Like, we're making money, and if we shut down, we can spin it back up. And you're like, that's terrifying. And that's what happened. Like, if you run a telehealth business and you can just like buy from that vendor at a fraction of the cost, and you don't care, and you don't like even go to visit those places. I've talked to some of these companies. I talked to one the other day, and the chief medical officer said, I made a recommendation to the founders and they went a different route. And I'm like, why did you choose this pharmacy? And they're like, it was the cheapest. And I was like, that's terrifying. And I think those things my hope is those things compound, because quality compounds and the people compound, and doing it the right way is going to be the thing that drives us.
And,
we'll find out.
And for all of the 503As and 503Bs that have gone through our evaluation, it is a colonoscopy, and so we have 75 to 100 different points that we go through. We've evaluated over 50 of them, and this is time consuming. Every single time we do it, we want them to win. We want them to be the greatest, and every single time it's a lot of times it's a disappointment. So there's like Matt says, huge variability.
Yeah, but if you're just a founder trying to break things, like if you just bring in the like move fast, break things mentality in the space, the break things are patience. And that's just like, it's not a trade I'll ever make, ever. We just won't, I would rather move slowly, compliantly, and build for 20 years than be like shortcut, let's take a gap. And like, if we lose on the fact that we move the right way and a little bit, and then that's the way it goes. But we will deliver great care. Yes. And that'll be the compounding for us.
Trusted source. Okay, before we turn to a quick rapid fire, something I actually never asked. Where did Noho, the name, come from?
Yeah, so as we were thinking about, we wanted something that was health and wellness. We looked at all different languages. And so in Hawaii, Noho had very, very positive connotation. And then we knew we wanted to be across the U.S. So from North Hollywood to north of Houston, so from coast to coast. And then, Soho, Nobu, there was many different names that carried something that was elevated. So that's how we came up with Noho, and it's continued to stick.
What does it mean in Hawaiian?
It means it is health and longevity and wellness as well.
Wow. All right. I'm glad I asked. Okay. Quick rapid fire to throw you for a loop. Coffee or peptides?
Both.
Sleep or peptides?
Both.
Exercise or peptides?
Definitely both. Peptides are not an or. This is the point. They're an and. Like, you take peptides and you feel better. You get better sleep. You get better workouts. You get better energy. And I
will say, like, it's not sleep. It's sleep medications or peptides. Peptides every time.
Oh yeah. Good point.
Biggest waste of money in this category.
Biggest waste of money. I mean, in general, or a peptide. So it's like if you're buying your bacterial static water and you're going through, I would spend the money on that, but people are charging $30-$40 a vial for some of these things. You're going off of Amazon, so I would watch the bacterial static water is number one.
Yeah, the biggest waste of money is like untested peptides. You think you are saving money. It's going to the source that you're like, look at the deal I got. And I will tell you, the reason you got that deal is because running batch level testing is really expensive. And like the things that go into making sure you're getting quality, it would be like going and finding a $1.99 filet mignon and being like, look at this deal. And that is a waste of your money because it is not the steak you want, I promise you.
Okay. Rapid fire. But good analogy. 3 blood markers everyone should know.
I would say it's CRP, which is C-reactive protein. It's a measure of inflammation. Hemoglobin A1C, which is a measure of your glucose monitoring over 3 months, and creatinine, which is a measure of kidney function. So I would put fasting insulin as a close fourth. So those are, we can talk in people's visits. We'll talk a lot more about that, but those are the top 3.
and we are in 2026. What will we all be taking in 2036?
I think it's more of like not one thing, but it's a personalized protocol. So we're all into personalized medicine. And there's not I think that's probably a mistake of like the one size fits all. Not everyone should be on GLP-1. Not everyone should be on a statin. So I don't know. I have to be nuanced on these things. So I think it's going to be personalized.
Yeah, I think the answer is a protocol. Like we'll go from a world where 1 in 8 are on a GLP-1 to a world where like everyone's on a protocol of some sort, and they'll cycle in and out, and they'll be constantly moving based on your goals.
And this might actually be the double whammy. One health change you should make today, but then my final question was going to be to tell us more about how people can get in contact and learn more about Noho and peptides.
Yeah, I would say one health change. I'll give you two. I'm going to maybe two. Is to find the right clinicians, right? If you feel that something's wrong, don't take the first answer of like, show up to the emergency department. I'll say when I'm in the ER, I'll be like, no, you're not broken. But outside of the ER, I would find the right doctor. Is number one. But then I would also say one like general health change. Matt will be proud of me. But like protein. So a lot of protein and short walks after meals. So these are like very low hanging fruit. And Elizabeth, as you know, you're a big runner. It's just the what it does for health and wellness. Protein, a bit of exercise.
Love it.
Best doctor you can find, and then resistance train, lift weights.
Oh, good.
And I would have taken protein if Tina hadn't said it.
All things we hear. This is great. Good. You're going to make us live healthier. So, and longer. On that thread, first of all, thank you both very much. And how can people learn more about peptides, about Noho, and share any of the best resources with us that people don't know about? This is wildly helpful.
Yeah, we're live. You can come and join us today, noholabs.com. And for Scribble, we'll create a code for any of your close friends. Scribble $2.99. Maybe we can edit that onto the podcast.
Even better.
So we'll give the friends and family rate to any of the Scribble friends and listeners and partners. But you guys have been incredible for us. I just want to throw out a shout for Scribble too. We feel very, very fortunate to have you as investors and partners along the way. Your whole team is spectacular. We've had a chance to work with and see a bunch of investors in the market, and you are top tier, and we feel very, very lucky to be a part of the family.
Well, thank you. We feel very fortunate to be on this journey with you.
Right on.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It was great to see you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Talk soon.